Okay, so this is our compositional trick slides that I'm going to go through. I have a couple of important things to tell you about the tricks and then also how to take good reference photos for the project that you guys are going to be doing. So before we get to that, let's do a quick review of Jim Dine. So your last e-learning day activity was to read an article about Jim Dine and answer a couple of questions and do a formal analysis. But as a review, he was a pop artist, which means that sometimes his artworks look very colorful and they're big, and he uses commonplace objects like hearts and bathrobes and things that you would just see in your everyday. And his artwork also references his childhood, especially with the tools that he creates. He spent a lot of time in his grandfather's hardware store, so his tools are kind of a reference to that history and those memories. So we are going to be using Jim Dine as inspiration for your graphite project that you are doing, taking pictures of everyday objects and tools in your home and then drawing them. So our 4 compositional tricks that you need to use in your photos are first symmetrical balance. So we've talked about balance before and symmetrical balance, but this is a nice review. So if we think about lines of symmetry and cutting our artworks in half, there's about the same amount of value and color and texture and implied form on this side as there is on this side here. So this is symmetrically balanced, and so is this, even though they're not completely identical on the left and the right side, totally still symmetrical. Here are 2 student examples of graphite drawings that they have done that have symmetrical balance. This is the end of a fork, and this is an opener, symmetrically balanced. Our second compositional trick is asymmetrical balance, so the exact opposite of that. Again, if we think line of symmetry and we cut this in half, there's more texture, value, form over here than there is on the right side. So we are off balanced. Same for over here because we have this kind of handle sticking out to the right side. So asymmetrical balance. Here are 2 student examples. This is a tennis racket that creates this nice kind of asymmetrical balance towards the right side, and this does the opposite with the left side. Our third compositional trick is strong diagonals. Diagonals create a lot of visual movement and interest, and so it's a really easy way to create a strong composition. Jim Dine repeats these strong diagonals here and kind of is creating rhythm, and then these strong diagonals here create this nice asymmetrical composition. 2 student examples for you. The diagonal here is nicely balanced by this kind of vertical and horizontal elements, and then we have lots of diagonals here in this composition. It just has a lot of visual interest. Our last compositional trick is what I call fill the frame. So when you kind of fill your entire composition with your object, and we're going to be doing this through zooming in. So zooming in on an object and filling the frame. This is an old sneaker that the student filled in. So we're looking for very little negative space, more positive space. Same here for this tennis racket. So filling the frame. Now, when you are taking your reference photos, we need to look for a range of value in reference photos. So this sphere here looks 3-dimensional because it has that range of value. It goes from really light to light grays, medium grays, dark grays, and then black. That's how we can turn shapes like a circle into a 3-dimensional form, as if we have that range of value. So reference photos need to have a range of value. Now I have good, bad, and great reference photos to show you. So these are the bad photos. They lack a range of value, they lack small details, and compositionally they're weak. These scissors just look like this kind of black shape. There's a couple of highlights here and here, but they don't have that range of value that makes them look three-dimensional. They look two-dimensional. This one has a hand in it. Please don't put any hands in your reference photos. And this one, while it does have a slight range of value, all three of these photos, the objects are too small in them. So zoom in more on your objects. Too small, bad compositions. These are good photos, so we see a really good range of value. There's highlights, there's some light grays, and there's black values. There's a lot of details on these three objects, and they're compositionally good, right? We have strong diagonals here, we have symmetrical balance here and here, but there's still just a little bit too much negative space. So kind of working on filling our frame a little bit more, zooming in. And now I have three great photos for you. So these all have a strong range of value. They have lots of great details. They're compositionally strong. Lots of diagonals here, filling the frame here. Asymmetrical balance for this last one. Really great photos. So now, when it comes time for you to take your photos, I have a couple of tips for you. So you're taking photos of everyday objects or tools, so that can be kitchen utensils, appliances, work tools, anything you can find at home. And you need to take photos of the same object from 3 different angles. So your project is going to be the same object, but just 3 different compositions. It is helpful when you are taking your photos if your phone allows you to change the format to square while you are taking them. Go ahead and do that. If you do not have that option, make sure you crop them after you take your photos, because we are going to be drawing from square compositions. Also, if your phone has the option of letting you take your photos in black and white, go ahead and change them to black and white. It's easier for us as beginners to see a range of value if we can see our photos in black and white, because sometimes we get confused with value and colors of things. So change them to black and white while you are taking your photos, and if you do not have the option, change them afterwards. Now I have good photos that I took of my toaster. So these all have a strong range of value, great details, compositionally strong. I'm using symmetrical balance, asymmetrical balance here, and also slight asymmetrical balance here. Looking at all 3 of these together, it's also important to think about what order they're going to go on our paper. And I feel like maybe these 2 photos are too similar, and so maybe I should move this photo in the middle of them, just so that way I can kind of balance out those very similar views. So also thinking about how your 3 photos fit together. Now I have bad photos for you, so do not do this. I know we all love our AirPods, but some things that you're going to find don't have a range of value. These are basically all white. That's boring. It's not a great project for a value project. There's no details, okay? Even if you open them up, they're still just not that interesting to draw and just compositionally weak. So please don't do this. Make sure you're following all of my tips. You have a strong range of value, you have details, you're using one of those 4 compositional tricks that I gave you.